All right, this is the last problem. It says write down the max value of f. Remember it says right, so that's a simple common sense problem. So the maximum value of f is, of course, 1. I remember our sine function goes from -1 to +1. So our max value is 1. Find the smallest value of x in radians for which the maximum of f occurs. So the smallest value, of course, this value is pi over 2. So that's pi over 2 is where our smallest max value occurs in radians. Then it says, describe the two transformations of f of x undergoes to form the graph of g of x. Well, remember transformations, 2, which is our amplitude, and then this value moves left or right, and then if we had some other value out here that moves up and down, and then this stretches this horizontally. If we change the period, it would stretch it horizontally if we had something there. So right here, the amplitude is 2, so it's a vertical stretch, scale factor 2. And remember, we're moving left and right, so it's positive, so it's going to go left. Translation, pi over 4 units. Oh, don't forget to write the word horizontal. Horizontal translation, left horizontal translation, pi over 4 units. Right. Hence, write down the maximum value of g. Well, if we stretched it by 2, our scale factor is 2, we multiplied by 2. So we multiplied the 1 by 2. So the max value of g is 1 times 2, which is 2, it occurs at x equals, if we move to the left, pi over 4, remember you go to the left, you're going to subtract pi over 4, so we're at pi over 2 right now, and so we subtract pi over 4, we multiply this by 2 to get a common denominator. So 2 pi minus pi equals pi over 4. So x equals pi over 4. Alrighty. And then now we got this all underneath. It says, does the graph of h have a vertical asymptote? Justify your answer. Well, to have an asymptote, remember that the denominator has to be 0. So, like, if the denominator is 0, then that means it's a vertical asymptote, because, of course, we cannot divide by 0. So we can only approach 0, but we can never be 0. So we set the bottom equal to 0. So we have 2 sine x plus pi over 4 minus 3 equals 0. Solve for that by adding 3 on both sides. We get 2 sine x plus pi over 4 equals 3. Then we have to divide by 2. Divide by 2. And we get sine of x plus pi over 4 equals 3 over 2. So our job is to find out where on the unit circle will we be equal to 3 over 2. Well, if you can recall, 3 over 2 is greater than 1. We can only go up to 1. So since it's greater than 1, it's out of our range. So therefore it does not exist. So therefore there are no vertical asymptotes. Because we can never be 3 over 2. Okay, and then let's find the range of h of x. So our range, well, we're multiplying by 4. So our range, well, remember our normal range is from -1 to 1. That's what a normal function of sine is. So we have the 4 on top, and we have to see what is the difference between if we had a -1 down here to a +1. We have to see what happens. So if I had a -1, because that's the lowest value that sine function could be, this is the lowest value this can be is -1. So I replace it with -1 minus 3. So what does that equal? Well, 2 times -1 is -2, plus -3 is -5. So that's -4/5. And then what happens if I let it be +1? So 4 over 2 times 1 minus 3. 2 minus 3 is -1. So that's 4 over -1, which is -4. Which is actually lower than -4/5. So this range is from -4 to -4/5. And that's it.